Everyone, now we are ready to start the this webinar. The today's webinar is on USA blueberry ingredients for beverage innovation and food processing. So we have Kalinex team lead by Kyle and Patrick. So they are chef and market development professionals, and as well as Mike is joining from the Kalinex, and we have Dr. Sureshi Tapu, food technologist, representing consulting from Nutritech. So he is with us. So first we start with the presentation by Kalinex team. I will hand over to Kyle to start presentation. The agenda is already been shared with you. This is on the screen also you can see. So we are covering almost all the items here in what is you can see in the screen. So we start with session one with blueberry ingredients for beverage innovations and product development by Patrick. And maybe uh, Kyle is adding something to that. So let's start. Patrick, you can share your presentation and start.
Fantastic. We'll get Kylie to pull that up for us here. We'll get going. Good morning, everybody out there. It's a little later in the day for us out here, but I know you guys are having a wonderful morning out there. Right. Kylie, are you able to throw that up?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Looks like we may be having a little bit of a lag here, but we got some action here. All right, fantastic. Oh, looks like I got a little, there we go. Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Patrick Rolfe. I'm one of the research chefs at Culinex. We're a food development firm in Seattle, Washington, in the United States. And I'm here with one of our project managers, Kylie Jovek. She's running the audio or the video for me today. And in the background, we have our director of development, Mike Platt. I have a little echo there. Sorry about that. Let me see if I can get rid of that. There we go. So today we're going to talk about blueberry innovation with US Blueberries and the formats that are great and appropriate for beverage development and beverage applications. That's sort of our main focus. We've been working with the US BCH for many years doing these presentations, and sometimes they're more culinary focused, and sometimes they're more beverage focused, and sometimes they're more manufacturing focused. But today we're going to kind of keep it on the beverage applications and the formats that are most appropriate for that one. So if we can go to the next slide there, Kylie. It's always a pleasure to do these presentations with you guys. We've been working closely, like I said, with the Blueberry Council for many years, and helping share information on blueberry applications to our international partners. For our discussions today, we're going to start with sort of an overview of blueberry formats and flavor profiles, and then we're going to get into the topic of blueberry beverage applications, including, again, formats. We're looking at packaging options, and we'll look at formulation and processing information as well. We're going to start with a review of various blueberry ingredients types that are available for food product developers in international markets. It doesn't make sense to show stuff that you don't have access to, but we will definitely talk a little bit about the ones that you do. We're going to also discuss their ideal product applications and formulations. There's lots of different formats that blueberries come in, therefore there's lots of different product applications that we can use them in, and there's always going to be the right product for the right application, and we're going to try to negotiate some of that for you guys today. After I review those ingredients, Kylie will share some market trend information with you guys and some inspiring product launches that have gone on in the US and our food service channels. And then before we wrap it up, we'll leave some time at the end for any questions you might have. We want today's presentation to kind of inspire you and help you to think outside the box and look at blueberry as an ingredient with a new perspective, so that you can kind of incorporate it into your own new or existing products in unique and creative ways. So let's go ahead and get started. Our first image that we have here is we've got our flavor wheel. And so from an R&D standpoint, one of the main reasons food scientists and innovators crave blueberries is because they have such an extensive range of attributes. It makes them extremely versatile in many different food applications. Because they have a rich, beautiful color. They're perfect when you want to add a little pop of bright blue or purple color naturally. That's one of the beauties of it. This is a natural coloring. They can also add different textures and mouthfeels to foods depending on the ingredient format. So if you're using a puree versus a juice, I'm sorry, a concentrate, you're going to have a different mouthfeel between those two. And of course, they're naturally sweet. But depending on the ingredient format, blueberries can provide a plethora of other flavors, ranging from floral, fresh berry notes to cooked berry notes, and even some of those underlying sour notes are sought after as well too. So when we work with our clients, we often use this blueberry flavor wheel to help us explain sort of those nuanced flavor notes that come from blueberries, and this helps us identify the best format for the product that our client might be developing. So you can see if you take a look at the wheel briefly that there's a lot of different flavor profiles that you might not associate with blueberries. You know that they're going to be sweet, you know that they're going to have jammy notes and cooked berry notes, and you know there's going to be some tartness associated as well. But there's also underlying flavors of tea or tobacco or even some fermented flavor profiles that help build the flavor of the product that we're working on. Most of them are designed specifically to use a formation that you're going to want to use in that product. So if you didn't want, per se, for example, a lot of the sourness in there, then you would go to more of a format that maintains more of the sweetness and the sugar content, IQF or puree or something like that. But we use this flavor wheel to help kind of get to what our clients really want when it comes to their flavor profile. This is another grid that we like to use a lot too. We call this kind of our spider graph, and it kind of describes the intensity of flavor from the center to the outside. When we're reviewing the flavor profiles of like high moisture products like we're doing today, we would notice that compared to fresh blueberries, say, or IQF formats, purees, for example, provide more delicate sour notes, and the juices will contribute to the detectable sour and sweet, but also the jammy notes. With the higher moisture content and the blueberries, the more we expect the sweetness and the sour notes to come through. So that's kind of when we get specific about flavor. This chart plots out the high moisture formats against fresh blueberries as a reference points, so you can see exactly where that profile shifts. With purees, you're going to see your sour notes come through more prominently, with the sweet notes that kind of balance them. And there's some dark berry and jammy complexity too, but that kind of sits behind the sourness. When we're working with juices, we're looking at both the sweet and the sour to come through with equally strong, with that dark berry juice, and again, some of that jammy flavor profile, some of that cooked berry profile is going to come across in the juice too. The higher the moisture, the sweeter the juice, and the more the sweet and sour notes are prominent. Compared to fresh or IQF blueberries, these formats push flavor towards the bright and the tart end rather than that deep berry complexity. So if you want the tartness and brightness in a beverage, the purees and the single strength juices are going to be the formats that are probably going to work the best for you. Some of the formats that are suitable for blueberry applications are going to be specifically the purees. Purees are whole blueberries that have been pressed, heat enzyme treated, pasteurized, and then packaged. These are typically stored frozen and are available in single strength or concentrated forms as well. Some purees offer seedless puree, where all the seeds have been removed, and that provides fewer particulates, less fiber, and a slightly less bitter taste that the seeds sometimes provide. Because the whole blueberry is used in the processing, purees provide more fiber than their juice counterparts, and they can help achieve more body, mouthfeel, and a thicker texture depending on your application. Single concentrated forms will be slightly more viscous than the single strength. They'll be a little thinner in viscosity, and the purees will have a fresh berry note with a moderate sour and slightly sweet flavor profile. Both purees are great for high moisture. Both single strength and concentrated purees are great for higher moisture applications. They both impact color and flavor, and depending on the application, the color can be based on pH. But they're great for dressings, they're great for beverages, they're great for yogurt drinks and ice creams, baby foods, where you're even seeing purees being used in fruit snacks and like snacking bars, like health bars. So you're going to see purees quite often. Let's go ahead and take a look at juices now. Yeah, our juices come in the single strength and the concentrates, again, just like our purees. And the juices are made by collecting the liquid from the pressed berries. They're typically pasteurized to prevent microbial contamination. And the juices are also available in single strength and concentrated form. I know I just said that. Unlike purees, however, they're going to be much thinner due to the removal of the fiber, and they provide a deep, dark, blue, purple flavor without any visual particulates. Sometimes if you're doing a smoothie, you're not necessarily so worried about particulates or mouthfeel, but if you're doing a thinner juice like a sports drink or something like that, you're going to want it to be as free as particulates as possible. From a flavor standpoint, the juices have more pronounced tartness and sweetness and more of that tannic flavor profile. Both juices, the single and the double concentrated, can be used in similar ways to the purees. They still provide the color and the flavor. However, due to the missing fiber, it will not provide the same mouthfeel or thickening properties. Juices work great in beverages and salad dressings. I've already mentioned yogurts, but we can also look at them as syrups and confectionery items as well too. And they're a great way to hydrate products such as cakes or oatmeal if you're going for the more not the beverage side, but the more food product side. And then similar to the puree, the pH and the background color of the formula will affect the color of the juice. Formula considerations, sweetness, acidity, pH. We'll talk a little bit about that for a few minutes. Once you've picked a format that you're going to be using for your product, if you're doing a beverage, for example, and you've picked the juice or the puree that you're going to want to make, now we're going to see how they behave in your formula. That's kind of the most important thing is what are the blueberries going to do to the product that I've formed? How are they going to change it? Are they going to be sort of negatives that I didn't consider, or is everything going to just deliver exactly what I want it to do? So what blueberries do is they bring four characteristics naturally. They bring a balanced sweetness, they bring bright acidity, and they bring a flavor that ranges from fresh berry notes to jammy notes, and of course they bring that deep blue color. So if you think about it, they're really working as a sweetener, an acidulant, a flavor, and a color all at the same time, and that's kind of why they're so effective in beverage, because they do so much heavy lifting with just one ingredient. Now the formats that you choose shifts the balance. Juice concentrates are going to be more tart, more intense. Great when you want the blueberry flavor to lead. Purees are softer and rounder, and they add mouthfeel. Better if you want the body without that sharp berry note. But one thing to really pay attention to is the pH. Blueberry color is pH sensitive. So the same ingredient can look very bright and vibrant in one formula, but dull and muddy in another formula. And so when it comes to shelf life, and you can't just assume that your color is locked in. You really need to be doing shelf life checks across the life of the product, not on just day one, because there may be some changes in the color profile. And if you see that during your shelf life testing, we might need to look at a different format or see if there's any color stabilizers that we could use. In general, though, the lower pH keeps blueberry color brighter. But what I'd want to confirm really is the specifics of your application before making any kind of confident estimation as to what would happen to your color in the product. They're all pretty individual, so it really takes to know the actual product to know what's going to happen with the color and the pH on it. All right, what do we have? What's next here? So packaging options. Let's talk a little bit about that. If we are talking about aseptic packaging, which is pretty much the commercial workhorse in the industry, it's commonly used for the juice concentrates and purees. It's shelf stable before opening, so you can cut refrigerator storage, you can lower your freight cost, and you can get a consistent ingredient quality from batch to batch. If you're running a commercial scale, then aseptic packaging is usually the best answer for your solution there. If we talk about frozen packaging, this is a great choice for development, for smaller runs or pilot runs, or when the focus is really on flavor preservation. Used for purees and single strength juice, it the frozen format generally isn't, you're not going to see that in the juices. You're going to see that in purees, and you're going to see that in IQF whole berries. Now, with the frozen, you trade some of the storage costs for flavor. Frozen formats are really the best for preserving the fresh berry character, and they hold a long shelf life. But and they also let you run small and kind of flexible batches. But you're also going to kind of give up on shelf stability, and shelf life once that product is thawed out and it goes into your product. Refrigeration works as well, and it's the best fit for single strength juice and purees in a short run or local production, where you want fresh flavor and you don't want that thaw step. But again, the trade-off for that is a shorter shelf life and a full cold chain cost, which goes straight to the manufacturer. So that again, the refrigerated products are usually used in as a small scale choice. So we have this slide actually represents three different kind of points of view. How blueberry beverage is typically made, which process blueberries hold up in the best, which manufacturing processes, I should say, blueberries hold up in the best, and how much to use when you're starting a new product. Where do I start with my percentage levels? So the flow is pretty straightforward. You prepare for producing the typical processing. You prepare the beverage base, you add your blueberry ingredient, whether it's a puree or a juice or a powder or whatever you're using. You homogenize it if the format calls for it, you pasteurize it, you fill the package, and that's pretty much it. The key point is the order. The blueberry product, the ingredient goes in to the already prepared base rather than being processed on its own. And the main reason for this is heat exposure. Blueberry color and fresh flavor are the most heat sensitive things in the formula, and adding it after the base build means that blueberry ingredient only sees the pasteurization step once instead of being cooked twice, which can in turn lead to loss of color and loss of flavor profile. What's great about blueberries is they work well through a number of processing situations, whether it's HTST, whether it's hot fill, whether it's carbonated, whether it's fermented, whether it's dairy. You really see blueberry ingredients working through all types of manufacturing processes. The practical takeaway here is that blueberries are common. They're going to run on most of the common lines that are out there. So the decision of how the processing is done really stays with the formulation team rather than the engineering. And they know in the very beginning how they want this product to be processed, because they're not going to run into situations where there's only a specific way to process these. They run on lines, on a variety of different lines, so there's not really much of a challenge there too. And then usage levels. You'll see typical usage levels. These are starting ranges. They're not fixed rules, because as all of you guys know, when it comes to formulation, you need to do your own testing and development to see where the ranges are for your standard and for your needs. So if you're working with a carbonated beverage, for example, you might start your blueberry ingredient ratio in a range of 2 to 10%. There's a pretty wide range there, but depending on how upfront you want that blueberry flavor profile to go, you're going to start around the two if you're just having it as an ingredient. But if you really want it to pack that blueberry punch, then you could take it up to 10% and see where you're there. Smoothies are going to be similar to that. Your blueberry ingredient is actually going to be a little bit higher. It's going to be on the 10 to 20% range. That's because the smoothies have more flavor profiles in them. If you're adding other ingredients and you really want that blueberry to sing through, then you're going to start at that higher level. If you want the blueberry just to be sort of the foundation flavor and maybe just adding a little color, then you might start at a lower level of around 10%. And if your product is a dry beverage powder, then you're really only looking at about 1 to 5% of blueberry ingredient in your formula, and that would be a freeze dried or a dried powder or a microwave dried for the dry beverage. And we actually do a bit of dry beverage work at Colinex and use the powdered blueberries, and they're quite effective in delivering both the flavor profile and the color. So where you land in each range kind of depends on, like I said, how blueberry forward you want that flavor and that color to be. So just to close this loop, the standard process and standard equipment and the usage level. Well, let me come back up a little bit. With a standard process and standard equipment, your usage level of how your flavor profile is going to come through, and you're not going to have any problems with your percentage on that too. Take a little sippy here real quick. Okay, so now we have a couple different flavor profile, a couple formats here. This slide maps out sort of our blueberry ingredient formats to the three main beverage applications. We've got juices, nectars, and functional beverages, functional beverage drinks. The point here is to see that there's really no one size fits all ingredient. The right format depends on what you think your beverage needs to deliver. For straight juices, for example, a juice concentrate is probably clearly the best fit. You get a clean flavor, uniform appearance, a bright color, and that matters because juice, if you think about it, is judged on the shelf before it's even tasted. So if you had a dingy, muddy kind of juice, it might not be as attractive to the consumer as that nice, dark, purple, clear liquid. In the restaurant industry, we would say that the first bite is with the eyes. So you would always want to make sure that your plate is beautiful. That comes true on the grocery store shelf as well. If you have a clear beverage that needs to maintain an identity of juice opposed to something else. Nectars are a different story. Puree is your best choice here because you want those high fruit solids. You want that fuller body and that authentic fruit character that consumers associate with sort of a premium nectar. I think that in the United States, at least, the term nectar is a premium product above just a juice or a concentrated juice or a functional beverage. So there's a really premium aspect to the nectars. On the functional side, if we're looking at functional beverages, it's either the juice concentrate or the blueberry powders if you're building it into a dry mix. So here we want to focus on the natural ingredient story, the full flavor, the clean label positioning, and the health halo that's around blueberries. Which is exactly what this category is competing on. It's competing on natural ingredients and clean label positioning. So the takeaway with this slide kind of tells the application, and the format does follow. You come up with your application, and then you come up with your format. Concentration concentrate for clarity, color, and puree body and powder when it needs to be dry. So that was a little bit choppy, but again, concentrated juice for clarity and color, puree for body, and then powder when it needs to be dry. I'm sorry, my throat's a little bit dry, so I kind of mumbled that one out. What do we got next, Kylie? Smoothies. I do love smoothies. We do a lot of smoothies. That's probably where you're going to see the most blueberries in our U.S. market is through our many companies that make smoothies. Everybody has a smoothie. So continuing on the application side of it, this one covers smoothies and dairy-based drinks where texture and mouthfeel matter just as much as flavor do. For smoothies, either a puree or a juice concentrate is going to work the best for you. Purees give you the thick texture and that whole fruit appeal. Both both deliver that bright berry flavor and do blend cleanly. So you're not really fighting separation or grit in the finished drink of either one. If you're working with the purees and the juice concentrates, dairy beverages such as drinkable yogurts, protein shakes, kefir, puree is going to be your best pick on that one. You get that creamy mouth feel, that rich purple berry flavor that just screams real fruit, and enough acidity and fruit character to balance the richness of the dairy base. So again, puree is going to be your best bet for dairy beverages. And so the platform from the last slide shows that when the body and the texture are part of the product promise, puree is going to do all the heavy lifting for you on that side too. So selecting the right ingredient for beverage applications. This is sort of a summary slide of what we've already walked through. Everything that we just kind of talked about and everything that you just saw is sort of summarized in this page. And if you did take one picture of one slide today, this would probably be the one that has the quickest information for you. So let's walk the matrix. The pattern is simple, where clarity, clean flavor, and color matter the most. Juices and sparkling beverages, your juice concentrate is going to be the answer. Where body, texture, mouthfeel, and product promise, like nectars and functional juices like kombucha and dairy applications and kefir and yogurt, puree's your winner right there. Smoothies sit in the middle, and they can go either way, depending on how thick you want it and depending on the flavor profile that you want to deliver. Purees can go either way on the smoothie side. And so the principle behind all of this is to match the ingredient format to the flavor, texture, and processing, and then the consumer, and then also the consumer experience that you're after. The format isn't a cost decision that's made at the end. It's a formulation decision that's made up front. Bring us the application and your target profile, and we will point you in the right direction for the right format. We do it all the time, and that's really why we love doing these sessions with our international partners, is to help them have a great understanding of the best product for their needs going forward. All right, what do we got? What's next, Kylie? All right, retail and food service, you're up.
Hi everyone. Hopefully my camera works. I'm having
She's
some
muted. We're not hearing her.
bandwidth.
Something's wrong with Kylie. She goes, give her one sec. Nothing's wrong with Kylie. Something's wrong with Kylie.
You hear me now?
It's late here for the computers too.
Any luck?
Yeah, it's
Can you
good.
hear me?
Here we go.
Okay, great. Sorry, I'm having some Wi-Fi issues as well. So I will hopefully not lag too much. But these are just some of the beverage and beverage adjacent products that we're seeing in the market in the US. So we got, as Patrick mentioned, we have a lot of smoothies and yogurts. These are using those purees and those juice concentrates and juice or single strength juices. And then we have some other kind of food applications as well with the oatmeal. And then we've got some green tea, so another drink there. We've also got, this is very specifically beverage, especially that functional beverage, a bunch of kombuchas. We see blueberries and kombucha a lot, mixed with something else, right? A lot of lemon blueberry or ginger blueberry or some sort of blueberry combination. But we do see blueberry by itself as well, as you can see in that culture pop down there at the very end. Also, a lot of triple berry. There's a lot of triple berry that has blueberry, blackberry, raspberry, or blueberry, strawberry, and blackberry. But blueberry is often the common thread across those ones. Great. We've got a few more slides here that are just our other formats that we can talk through. But I think we're close to time. Raj, any direction there?
So thank you, Raju. There is one question in the question bank. Can you check? There's a one question in chat box. The question is, we are developing a blueberry beverage, but it has a cough syrup note when we prepare nectar. Please let me know how to address the issue.
Interesting. That's a new one to me. Are you able to tell me what format of the blueberry ingredient you're using? Is it blueberry puree or is it a concentrate?
Basically, it was concentrate.
Interesting. A sort of a cough syrupy note. So what's interesting is in the US, cough syrup often is quite blueberry focused. I mean, that's a flavor profile that I think for the cough syrup people are covering up some of the off flavors that the cough syrup provides. So it's interesting that the blueberry concentrate itself is producing that similar effect. Without knowing too much about your product specifically, I might move from the puree to one of the juices. There might, or well, I'm sorry, from one of the concentrates to one of the juices that has a little bit less impact to it. We can take a look. I mean, there are a lot of maskers on the market as well that can help mask out any off flavors from fruits or from other flavor profiles. I'm not familiar. I haven't had to use one for a blueberry, but that certainly is an interesting question. And I can write that down and we can take a look at it and see if any of the other technical individuals on our team might have an answer for that.
So, Patrick, you mean to say if we are making beverage with this concentrate, so it is likely to come every time. So, is there any specific variety of blueberry which can be used in this beverage, and so that we are not getting any type of medicinal flavor?
Not on a major scale. For us, mostly the different varieties of blueberries are for very small production, and there would be almost boutique. In the U.S., you don't really get your choice of buying various varieties. There are opportunities to do that, but most of the products that's mass produced is going to be that high bush blueberry. And I would have to take a look at some of the other strains before I could really feel confident saying that it's that particular blueberry that's causing that particular flavor. I feel like it's probably just the strength of the concentrate that you're using. So if you had the opportunity to take it back to the bench and either reduce your concentrate or start using a single strength instead of a concentrate, you might be able to see some differences in there. But again, the varieties different varieties aren't really available on a manufacturing scale at this time that I'm aware of. Raj, Kylie, let me know if you know otherwise.
Sure.
No.
Okay. So,
Thank you.
we have to use some masker in this case, huh?
It's possible, and that's something that we work with maskers quite often. I have quite good relationships with many of our flavor companies, so I can actually, shoot that question out to 3 or 4 of them tomorrow and see if they've ever heard that, and we can get back to Raj and we can follow up with this one if you would like us to.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Patrick and Kyle. So now we move to next presentation by Dr. Suresh Aitapu. He will be talking about the processing technologies, quality preservation, and commercial utilization of USA blueberry ingredients in Indian beverage manufacturing. Over to Dr. Suresh Aitapu.
Raj, I'm not able to share my presentation. It says, okay, now it is there. Yeah. Okay. So you can see the presentation?
Yeah, you can do a full mode, sir.
Okay. How is it now? Is it full?
Yes, now it's okay.
It is okay.
Yeah.
It is good.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I apologize for not sharing my video. I have some issues with my computer, it seems. And also, we are having power problem today. So in case if I lose the connection in between, I'll rejoin. Okay. Yeah, good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank US High Bush Blueberry Council and Raj to give me an opportunity to discuss some blueberry processing with you. So before going into processing, I would like to discuss a little bit about anthocyanins. You are all from Dabur, which is the fruit processing organization. I am sure you are all familiar with that, but I just would like to mention a little bit about anthocyanins, which are the major bioactive components in blueberries. And also, as we were discussing, like Patrick was talking about impact of pH on the color, so that is where this comes in. So I'll just briefly touch upon that, and also some processing technologies and some commercial applications. We are sure you are, I'm sure you are familiar with the blueberries. These are all the small round edible berries. Those who are in India, we are not very familiar about this, but now thanks to the interest among the consumers about the blueberries, and because of its color and anthocyanins, the health conscious people are really looking at this. And there are number of varieties. What we are talking today is the high bush blueberry, which is widely produced in Northern America, USA, which are a little different than others. And that's what we will be. These high bush blueberries are a little bolder in size, and also flavor wise, I mean, the sharpness is less, it is milder, and also good sweetness index it has. And the moisture, like any fruit, the moisture content anywhere around 80 to 84%. Because of that, they are very perishable. And these are typically low pH product, like most of the fruits, and that is where the anthocyanins, the pigments, will be preserved. Usually they are deep blue or purple in color, mainly because of the anthocyanins. These are considered as superfoods because of their natural, their health package. Like if you look at a blueberry, which has a very good amount of anthocyanins, that are nothing but flavonoids, and also good source of vitamins and minerals, especially vitamin C. Iron is also a good source in blueberry, vitamin K, magnesium, etc. And also another good thing is it's a good source of fiber. Of course, here we say carbohydrates, micronutrients like carbohydrates, fats, and protein. They are not so high. Fat is maybe less than 0.5%, and protein is around less than 1%. But most striking is its anthocyanin content, which gives various health benefits. If they have antioxidant properties, as we are all familiar after the COVID, that how important antioxidants are, and anti-inflammatory, and also there are certain health promoting, especially diet-related degenerative diseases like heart diseases, blood sugar regulation, and gut health. So these are some of the benefits of these blueberries when we consume them. And as most of the bioactive components are responsible for these health benefits, like anthocyanins, flavonoids, phenolic acids, vitamin C, and dietary fiber, they all play a very important role in providing, whether it is the antioxidant activity, or the gut health, or heart health, or urinary tract, reducing the urinary tract infection, and also providing good dietary fiber to the gut bacteria. So these are all various components which you find in blueberries to give these health benefits when we consume them. Some of the documented health benefits associated with blueberry consumption is cardiovascular benefit. We always think cardiovascular health is only the reducing the cholesterol level. That is also important, but oxidation of cholesterol, like atherosclerosis, oxidation of cholesterol is also a very big issue to preserve the heart health, or to benefit cardiovascular health. So that is where these blueberry antioxidants will help us in providing reduction in the oxidation of LDL cholesterol that leads to heart diseases, enhances brain function. As we have discussed, it's a powerful antioxidant activity it has. And if you see, maybe in the later slides I will mention, blueberries are one of the few actually is the fruits and fruits which actually provide a maximum amount of antioxidants, this anthocyanins what we call, and anti-inflammatory effect, and also it supports metabolic health and promotes gut health. Here I think one thing I missed is the anthocyanins, the antioxidants which are present in blueberries actually have anti-adhesive properties, especially when you are looking at urinary tract infection. These antioxidants, these anthocyanins, will not allow the urinary tract infection causing bacteria to adhere to the urinary tract, so that they will not have the infection. So that is a proven health benefits, another health. And also it's promotes gut health because of good amount of fiber, almost 17 to 18% of carbohydrate which is present in blueberries is nothing but fiber. It ranges from anywhere from 2.5 to 3% based on the initial moisture content of the product. And I'm sure Kylie has touched upon some of these things. And if you look at the global market trends, and globally it is growing at 5 to 7% CAGR, which is very, very good growth. And when you look at the ingredients, there is a strong, it's about $3 billion, and projected to be about $5 billion by 2034-35. And there is a strong demand growth, mainly because of the health consciousness. People are looking like healthy ingredients, natural colors. As Patrick was mentioning, these anthocyanins, which are water soluble, they give as a natural color to the product, and they give a natural as an ingredient which can actually meet the consumer's demand, whether it's in the Asia Pacific. It's one of the fastest growing regions in the world. There is a rising health awareness. We see that in India a lot. That is the reason now the processed food industry is looking at health promoting products with less amount of chemicals added, or less amount of preservatives added to that, or natural colors with the products with natural colors. This is what the trends in the global market, and I'm sure we are definitely following the same trend in India, and Indian consumers are really looking for these kind of products. And here one thing I would like to mention, as you are from the industry, you know better than me about how the consumer's perception about paying for a good quality product. So now consumers are not concerned too much about cost of the product. If you can give a quality product, consumers are ready to pay for that quality product. As far as product categories are concerned, those blueberries can be used into functional beverage. I don't want to repeat what Patrick has mentioned. Like healthy snacks and breakfast cereals is something which we have seen the whole blueberries, dried blueberries going into this. And we, in the dairy products, we have a lot of smoothies coming into this market. Yogurt and smoothies coming into kefir is not a big product in India, but in other dairy products we see a lot of these things. And in the nutraceuticals and dietary supplements, as a natural source of vitamin, minerals and fiber, and also bioactive components, these blueberry products or ingredients have been used. And as Patrick was mentioning about the fruit bar, I see more often one of the big categories in India is the fruit bars. So again, in that particular category, the blueberries are being used, dried blueberries are being used in this particular category. And here I just would like to mention one thing. US FDA suggests that we eat 5 servings of fruit every day. For a normal consumer, it is very difficult to actually have five servings of a fruit. So that is where some of the blueberry categories, like dried blueberries or the frozen blueberries, can come in handy in meet that fruit consumption requirement to provide various health promoting constituents. as I was discussing about a little while ago, there is an increasing demand for natural colors, functional ingredients from the consumers, and clean label is one thing which we have been seeing in Indian market also. I do work with a lot of work with the processed food industry, and the industry is increasingly looking for clean label products. So this is where blueberries can fit in very well. And also consumers are looking for health and wellness. That I don't need to reiterate that, because we have been seeing this for the last 5-6 years or so, especially after the COVID. And we can see that how consumers, an average consumer in India or in the global market, are looking for products which can provide health and wellness, and natural colors over synthetic dyes. As I was a little while ago mentioning, these pigments like anthocyanins, which are water soluble, so they can actually act as a natural color to the product. And there is an increasing growth in the functional foods, that is health promoting foods with health benefits beyond basic nutrition, that is also becoming mainstream. So if you see in the market today, there are so many products which are actually providing, which are being positioned as health promoting, especially for heart health, diabetes, anti-cancer, gut health. So we have been seeing them as a mainstream product. So this is again where one of the consumers' interest, and blueberries can fit in very well into that. And sustainability is something increasingly we are a little behind compared to maybe Western markets, or maybe some of the Southeast Asian markets. But in the last 2-3 years, I see a lot of interest in sustainable tea. As far as consumers are concerned, they are also looking for products which are produced using sustainable practices, and that is where again we can get some benefit from the use of blueberries, from especially high bush blueberries that are coming from the US. Anthocyanins, as I was referring to this anthocyanin content, you look at this table, blueberries actually provide almost 400 milligrams of anthocyanins per 100 gram of fresh produce, compared to look at grape, which is purple in color, of course. So it's about 120, blackberry about 245. This is the blueberries, especially high bush blueberries, can provide a very good amount of anthocyanins, which have antioxidant activities. So it's 60% of the phenolic compounds what you find in the blueberries are anthocyanins. Mostly it is melvedin and delphinidin is the major components of anthocyanins which we find in the blueberries. These are different types of anthocyanins. You can see almost 40% of these anthocyanins which you get in the blueberries is melvedin, followed by delphinidin. And there are other anthocyanins also. These two constitute almost 70% of the anthocyanins which we find in the blueberries. Mostly, if you see anthocyanins, these are in the peel. It's not only in blueberries. In many of the products where we get these anthocyanins or flavonoids or coloring pigments, they're mostly in the peel. Flesh has about 5 to 30%, but most concentration is in peel. That is where one thing is very important, especially when you are handling the blueberries even at the time of harvesting. You don't want to have any damage during the harvesting, during the handling, or during the processing. So sometimes if you are looking at juices, it may come down because a little bit these anthocyanins may go down. But if you look at the whole peel, definitely they will be mostly in the peel, and you will get all the benefits about these anthocyanins. And how I don't want to go into too much chemistry here, but I just would like to mention that the antioxidant properties, because they are very important, because when we are in our body, we continuously produce free radicals because of oxidation, whether it is the body metabolism, that is a natural process, environmental factors like pollution, radiation, smoking. So they all cause oxidation that leads to free radical formation. So here these antioxidants, what these anthocyanins, what they do is they donate one oxygen to these free radicals, so they will be having neutralization. And of course, there are certain endogenous antioxidants like glutathione, thione are there. But these are externally when we consume any food. That is where you look at vitamin A, C, E, and anthocyanins and some other minerals like zinc, even iron can actually have this antioxidant benefit, so that it will provide health benefits, especially certain diseases like heart diseases, skin health, and brain health, and also even to some extent in managing diabetes. The gut absorption, again, the absorption of these anthocyanins mostly happens in the colon, where majority reaches, because when you consume in the mouth, there is a minimal degradation. Stomach also is stable acidic pH, because our stomach has a very high acidity, so they will be stable there. There will be some amount of absorption in the small intestine, but colon mostly they will be absorbed mostly in the colon and fermented by the gut bacteria. And then you will get various phenolic metabolites. When they are absorbed by the gut bacteria or by the body, then they will release various metabolites, and which will be again absorbed and put into the bloodstream, so that they will be distributed to brain, heart, liver, and kidneys. And that is how we get these benefits about consuming absorption of these anthocyanins when we consume them. Loss of anthocyanins is very much possible. Not only blueberries, if you process any food product, whether it is blueberries, whether it is any wheat, or you take anything, when you do processing, there is some processing loss bound to happen. Even in our kitchen, if you are washing, peeling, obviously there will be, that is nothing but the processing. At the kitchen we do at a home scale. In a facility in Dabar, you will be doing in a more commercial way, bigger processing, you will do that. So that bound to happen, processing bound to have losses. That is how nature it is. We need to be careful when you are processing them. So when you are processing, like harvesting, sorting, grading, removal of the damaged or unripe foods, washing, sanitization, but we need to minimize these. If we understand how the losses happen, so we can always minimize them, so that we can preserve these bioactive components in this package of health to the consumers. This is what Patrick was referring to. These anthocyanins are very, very sensitive to pH. Up till acidic pH, they are good. They will have stable color, the pigments. But when you go into the alkaline condition, so you will tend to lose them. They will become unstable, and you will lose the activity or degradation will happen. So that is where, as that's what Patrick has been referring to this, that we need to understand this, so that when we are processing, thankfully most of the Dabur products are low acid foods, so we can always preserve them. But if you are doing something like a high acid, low acid products, we may tend to lose these anthocyanins, or degradation of anthocyanins may happen. So we need to understand this when we are handling these blueberries, or any fruit for that matter. When you look at effect of high heat, it's not only just the pH. You know, you are in the processing, you understand it very well. Oxygen, heat, they are moisture. They actually have a lot of role in stability of the product. When you expose to heat, there is some loss bound to happen. Because whether it is sterilization, pasteurization, or cooking, any drying, any heat treatment tend to actually have some losses. We should understand that, and maybe we can look at some HTST process rather than an LTLT process, where you expose at a lower temperature, but a long time will have a more impact than a higher temperature at a short time will have that. And you can see that if you if you are losing those blueberries because of the heat treatment, because the formation of phenolic acid and other degradation products, you can see in the picture here, the color can be very dull. So, but as we need to actually maintain that color. However, there are some color fixing ingredients like ascorbic acid, citric acid, some other phenolic compounds are there to actually fix the color. That is where we can actually play with the formulation, play with the processing, and try to preserve that. But what I'm trying to say is heat has a negative impact on anthocyanins, not only anthocyanins, on various processes. So how we can minimize, I was just referring to this a little while ago. Using high temperature short time HTST process instead of LTLT process, when we actually process at a little higher. I am not talking about a sterilization temperature. I am talking about pasteurization. Anyway, in a low acid food, you really don't need to do the sterilization. You can do a pasteurization, maybe 72 degrees, 75 degrees centigrade for about 2 to 10 seconds is good, is actually better than 63 degrees or 65 degrees centigrade for 20 minutes. So even though the temperature is low, because the duration is long, so it will have a negative impact. Of course, there are some non-thermal technologies like high pressure processing, which is not very common, but now the technology has been adopted, and industry is adopting some of these technologies like high pressure processing. And another thing, as I was referring earlier, for any food product, heat, moisture, and oxygen are like enemies. So if you tend to reduce oxygen exposure, that is where oxidation happens. So where you can actually control your oxygen, there are some ways of actually deaerating, vacuum deaeration, something like that, where you remove the oxygen before you the process, so that it will preserve these bioactive components. As I was referring to this oxidation on blueberry anthocyanins, when you expose to oxygen, there is reactive oxygen species will be formed. So they will be oxidize the anthocyanins, the pigment will be break down, and that will, when the pigment is broken down, so you will have a faded color or reduced color, which you can see clearly in the picture on the far right side. You can see if it is exposed to oxygen because of the oxidation, how you can lose the pigment. The factors that accelerate oxygen, increase oxygen, is obviously the oxygen exposure. This initiates the oxygen oxidation and initiate the pigment degradation. High temperature. Again, high temperature, as we discussed a little while ago, it will also accelerate oxidation process. UV light to some extent also promotes photooxidation. That is why we have seen some of the photosensitive products are actually packaged in amber bottles, so that you don't want the visible or UV light passing through the product, so that you can actually reduce the photooxidation. Some ions like iron, copper, they also catalyze the oxidation reaction. Sometimes vitamin C can accelerate anthocyanin degradation in some beverage systems. In general, actually, if you see, vitamin C can act as a stabilizer for color, but sometimes it has a both oxidative and reductive mechanism. So based on the system, it will always play a different role. And we all know that polyphenol oxidase or peroxidases, which are the enzymes which are naturally present in the foods, they actually catalyze enzymic oxidation. So that is where we actually do the thermal treatment. So you don't want to inactivate these enzymes, which will cause degradation or cause browning reaction during the storage of the product. So these are some of the factors that will accelerate oxidation. So how we can minimize this is, as I was referring earlier, minimize the oxygen exposure is the best thing. Of course, it is not so much so easy to minimize easy to eliminate the oxygen exposure, because you cannot work in an isolated condition. But as far as possible, we can reduce the exposure to oxygen. As I was referring a little while ago, deaeration, vacuum deaeration of the beverage before filling the beverage, because during the life the oxygen level will be less. Nitrogen flushing packaging or maybe flushing with other inert gases can actually replace the oxygen in the packaging. And also oxygen barrier packaging material, you have a packaging material in such a way that it will not allow any oxygen coming from the outside. Of course, most of the Dabur products have oxygen barrier packaging material, whether it is you are using aseptic packaging or you are using some of the bottles, so they will always have the oxygen barrier properties. And refrigerated storage is always will slow down. That is why you always get a better life when you actually store at a refrigerated condition. Or you can add some co-pigments or encapsulation with anthocyanins, maybe with xanthan gum or maybe with some maltodextrin. You coat these anthocyanins, the bioactive components, and then you can improve the stability. These are different ways, but I'm not saying all these are possible. So we need to understand them so that in our processing we can adapt them. Enzyme degradation, as I was referring a little while ago, polyphenol oxidase and peroxidases, which are the natural enzymes. So when you actually, this is where again handling the handling the berry comes in hand, because when you are not disrupting the cell, it will not have it will not have much impact. But that is where the handling comes into picture. So you need to handle them properly so that you don't rupture the cell wall, so that these enzymes may not come in contact with the anthocyanin. So if you have that, obviously when you are processing, you need to have that. So that is the reason we need to do some thermal treatment. So because these are enzymes which will be inactivated very easily if you reach around 65 degrees centigrade. That is where the pasteurization will help us in inactivating the enzymes, inactivating the microorganisms. So if you do that, that will reduce the enzymatic oxidation of the colors. If you don't do that, again it will lead to the color loss, browning, and reduced antioxidant activity. So enzyme degradation can be reduced by rapid cooling immediately after harvesting. That is where I have a very close association working with some of the these organizations, US cooperators, what they call. The way they actually handle their product is very good. So if you, during harvesting, you immediately hold them at a cooler temperature, and gentle handling, that is where is very important. You remember in the previous slide, I said if you don't handle it properly, so you may actually cause rupture to the peel, the skin, that may lead to inactivation of these activation of these enzymes, so that will start degradation. So gentle handling at the time of harvesting or post-harvest process is very important. Blanching, that is a heat treatment to inactivate polyphenol oxidases and peroxidases before further processing. That is where if you inactivate them, obviously you will you can prevent the enzymatic degradation of this. And high pressure processing is another step, another way we can do that to reduce the enzyme activities. Of course, that depends on the pressure and holding time. And oxygen, as I was referring time and again, oxygen is a big culprit. Of course, it is all required for all of us. Same thing, it is required for us, it is required for the enzymes, it is required for the microorganisms. So limiting the oxygen exposure is one of the ways to actually prevent enzymatic degradation. Similarly, the light also promotes oxidation, especially UV light, and some spectrum of the visible light have oxidation impact. So when you expose it to light, UV light or some visible spectrum will actually have photooxidation that will lead to pigmentation or the depigmentation, or losing the color and losing the antioxidant activity. How we can say, as I was referring a little while ago, amber colored packaging to block UV light, store products away from direct light. That's what you always put it in your on your label, saying that keep in a dry, cool place, and also away from the sunlight. Maintain the refrigerated storage, and reducing the headspace. So you want to see the product may have oxygen, but in the headspace, if you limit the oxygen, in that. So that will actually minimize the oxidation and photooxidation or oxidation, so that sorry, you can preserve the color, you can preserve the antioxidant activity of the product. So effect of storage, we all know that storage conditions play a very, very important role. Refrigerated storage at 0 to 4 degrees centigrade or frozen at minus 18 degrees centigrade will have a long-term benefit, will give a lot of shelf life, and use of airtight oxygen barrier packaging and protecting from sunlight and sunlight, and minimize storage duration before consumption and distribution. Of course, it is not in our hand, but in a shelf-stable product, you need to be a little careful on oxygen barriers and storage conditions. Those are the things which we need to have some control, so that we can preserve these anthocyanins or the bioactive components in blueberries. Some of the critical points in manufacturing we need to look at it is raw material selection, where you where we take out overripe or underripe products or damaged product, low quality berries. So this is where fortunately the US blueberry farmers have very good practices, how they handle it after harvesting, before they go for further processing. So they have a very well established processes, so that we don't need to worry about that. And during washing and sorting also, we don't want to bruise the berries, so that may lead to enzyme activation. So that is what we need to be careful. And crushing and juicing, oxygen incorporation will lead to enzyme oxidation, as we discussed a little while ago. So processing them at under low oxygen conditions is definitely is one thing. And thermal processing definitely will have an issue. So heat-induced anthocyanin degradation, as we have seen in the previous slides. So optimize the time temperature conditions like HDST process or high pressure process can actually help us in minimizing the heat-induced degradation of these anthocyanins. Formulations is very important, as Patrick has been discussing about that. High pH, fortunately, in the Dabur-based products, we don't really deal a lot with high pH. So maintaining the pH about 2.5 to 4 is good to preserve the anthocyanins or the antioxidant activity. Packaging, where oxygen and light exposure will have an impact on that. So use elevated temperature will help us in maintaining the antioxidant activity or the anthocyanin. So now we'll see different processes. So we know how important it is necessary, because we are dealing with fruits or some of the products which are very, very low shelf life. So if you need to take this product to the consumer, if you just transport it, it is not possible. So we need to actually process them, and so that is why we can increase the shelf life, increase the safety, because when it is perishable, food safety also comes in picture, because when there is a lot of moisture, about 80-85% moisture, that will also have impact on that is the ideal moisture for the microorganisms to grow. So we need to control that. So we need to have a safe, proper safe food product to the consumers. And value addition, as we have seen earlier, people are looking for high value products, health promoting products, or different food formats. They are looking at that. So that we need to have processing to add value to this product, and also to reach to wider market access, bigger market, diversified markets. Like that are not everybody just drinks a beverage, not everybody just drinks a bar, eats a bar. So there are people have different food habits. So we need to process our food in such a way so that it will meet the consumers requirement, consumers expectations. And with all these things, when you do processing, not only with blueberries, when you do processing, any food tend to have some losses. It's not just anthocyanins in case of blueberries, but in other bioactive components, other nutrients, some vitamins especially, you tend to lose them. So that is where we understand and do the select the process in such a way that we can preserve the nutritional quality. I think we have discussed this quite a bit. Anthocyanins are highly susceptible to heat, oxygen, light, and there will be significant losses when you are processing. And antioxidant activity generally decreases, and the anthocyanins and polyphenols degrade because of it. Even though they are they have antioxidant activity in the cellular environment, but they also tend to get oxidation. So, like vitamin C, which is very heat sensitive, there is substantial losses during thermal processing. Polyphenols, anthocyanins are nothing but polyphenols, partial degradation depending on the processing intensity. Usually, if you look at minerals and fibers, you don't lose much of them. And minerals are very stable during processing. Even dietary fiber is largely retained. You don't lose it. When only thing in the processing, sometimes if you're taking out the fiber content, then it will lose, but otherwise the processing will not have much impact on that. So we'll see pasteurization. I'm sure those involved in the food industry know very well. Pasteurization is the controlled heating. You don't go to a very high temperature. Maybe you do go to 72, 75 degrees centigrade for a few seconds. So where you inactivate the pathogenic microorganism and spoilage microorganisms and the enzymes which have a negative impact on the food, like polyphenol oxidases and peroxidases. So you inactivate them at that temperature and immediately cool them to lower temperatures. So you will have a better product or a safer product with increased shelf life. So that is where this is what I was referring a little while ago. The LTLT process, we think low temperature 63 degrees is not a big temperature, but 63 degrees at 30 minutes is actually have more detrimental effect than 72 degrees at 15 seconds will have a less impact. So HTST process, in any process, like you do some UHT process, you take it to 150, but still it's only for a fraction of a second. So that will have more impact than low temperature long time process. Another issue with the LTLT process is like it's usually a small scale or a batch type process, whereas if you do a HTST process where you can, because the holding time is only 15 to less than a minute, hardly 30 seconds, so you can have membrane heat exchangers, you can pass it through heat exchangers, and you can actually heat the product to that temperature, to that holding time, and then make it the pasteurization process. It is ideal for fruit juices, beverages, which can be a continuous process. If you look at the comparison of pasteurization with UHT process, if you look at UHT, which is a very high temperature, I was just referring a little while ago, it's almost up to 150 degrees centigrade, but you are only going for 1 or 2 seconds. So there will be, it's have a good control on the microbial load. In this process, not only the vegetative cell, even spores can be inactivated. You can have a longer shelf life, and you will have one issue is the retention of the anthocyanins will be little less in this because it's a higher temperature. As we have discussed, these anthocyanins are heat sensitive, so there is definitely bound to have some changes. Maybe reduction or color fading, development of cooked or caramelized flavor is another thing because of the high temperature. But processing wise, stability wise, UHT process is good. But based on the product application, you can choose whether HTST process of 72 degrees centigrade for about 15 seconds or 20 seconds or versus UHT process for 2 seconds. So use what strategy to preserve anthocyanins during processing is use HTST process or high pressure processing, minimize the oxygen exposure, maintain pH. That is what very, very important, especially to preserve the anthocyanin stability or preserve them. Low acid products, fortunately what the products, the upper handles are lower in acidity, so this is good. And use light protective packaging, and most of your packaging material is light protective, so I don't see any issue with. Store product at lower temperature storage is very important. We don't have a lot of control when it goes to a retailer, but that is where of course in nowadays in the modern retails you have a better temperature control than earlier days. So if you have these process, then we can actually preserve these anthocyanins. Drying is another process. This is an age-old process where you take out the moisture, as we have seen in the blueberries or any fruit for that matter will have around 80 to 90% moisture. That is a big problem for the shelf life of the product. So what we need to do is we reduce the water and also reduce the water activity, so that you will control the microbial growth and you control the enzymatic process or chemical degradation, so that will lead to the longer shelf life. So and also another thing is, like, if you look at 1 ton of let's say fresh blueberries with about 80% moisture, so in a container you hardly put maybe let's say a 20-foot container, you can put, let's say, 10 tons of the product. But whereas if you dry that to let's say maybe around 15% moisture or something like that, so you can actually in the same container you can actually load more. Even maybe it is only 20 in a 20-foot container, let's only 10 tons, but then 10 tons of the dried product is equal to almost 4 to 5 times or 6 times based on how much moisture you have removed. So it will have less transportation costs, less storage costs, because this is very relevant now. If you see in international transportation, the container costs have really increased very, very much, especially because of the Middle East war going on. So this is where we can actually reduce the transportation as well as storage costs and easier handling. And also it can help us in value addition, like dry blueberries, as we discussed a little while ago, as a snack or in the cereals or in the bakery products or in the fruit bars. Blueberry powder, where you can reconstitute this powder into beverages, especially if you have a freeze-dried powder, which will have a better reconstitutability, which can be made into beverages or smoothies. Or you can, when you are actually dehydrating, especially using better technologies like freeze drying, so this will actually preserve the nutraceutical, the bioactive or health promoting ingredients, and also concentrate them. Imagine from 80% moisture you are bringing down to, let's say, 5% moisture. Sometimes freeze dried products will have maybe 3-4% moisture. So if you are bringing down to such a low moisture, so that there is a concentration of these components, health promoting components can be there, so that can be used as a nutraceutical ingredient, sometimes as a natural coloring agents. As we know, these blueberry products, these pigments are water soluble, so then you can actually use it as a natural coloring and flavoring agents. And also drying will reduce post harvest losses, because a lot of these products, because of its high moisture, because they are very perishable, you will have very high losses. If you look at an Indian market, of course I cannot compare with Indian post-harvest losses with the US, but in India we have as high as 25% to 30% post-harvest losses because of the perishability of this product. So then that is the reason we need to do dehydration or drying process to actually reduce the post-harvest losses, so that some more products can come into the food chain. Spray drying is something is one of the very old technologies, where you take the juice, blueberry juice, or sometimes you may have to add some carriers to do that, and you atomize it into steam of hot air, so that the moisture is removed like a flash, and you will get a low moisture product with which can be used for these products which we had discussed earlier as a functional food or as natural content. Of course, it will have a long shelf life. So this is how I will not go into the details of this. I just would like to mention. So you take the blueberry juice. Sometimes you may have to add some carriers, because when you are doing spray drying, you need to have around 20 bricks or 20% total solids is required. Sometimes you may have to add some carriers, and then sometimes you can add something like a xanthan gum, or some maltodextrin is anyway added as a carrier. So you can actually encapsulate these bioactive components in this process. You pass it through an atomizer. There will be hot air circulating, so that will take out the moisture, where ranging from up to the hot air will be around 20 degrees centigrade. It will actually take out because the juice is coming in the small droplets, so you will have a lot of surface area. So this moisture is immediately removed. The dried product will be collected, where you remove the exhaust, the air, and you will get the dried particles. That is how freeze drying is the not freeze drying, spray drying is done. And you will have a look at a product with 85% moisture to a product with less than 3% moisture. So this will have a long storage stability, and less storage area, less transportation, and also preserves the product. So this is one of the processes which have been adopted all over the world. So again, in this, the inlet temperature, that is where you send the hot air into the spray dryer, ranging from 50 to 20 degrees centigrade, outlet temperature about 70 to 100 degrees centigrade. So this will have some impact, because the high temperature, there is a thermal degradation of anthocyanins. So that is where you need to keep in mind. Sometimes if you do encapsulation, so this will preserve these anthocyanins. And freeze drying, I always feel one of the very, very good technologies. Unfortunately, it is very expensive, and also it is like a batch process. Nowadays, there are technologies available like a not really a continuous process, but you can do reduce the processing time. And here, what we do is you freeze the product and we make the ice. I'm sure you are all familiar with the method called sublimation, where when you a solid phase, it will directly convert into gaseous phase without going into liquid phase. That is where the sublimation. So you freeze the product, blueberries, which has about 80% moisture. So the ice crystals will be frozen. So they will be exposed to even low temperatures under vacuum. So if you look at vacuum, under vacuum, the water boils at a low temperature. Even at 37, 38, or less than 40 degrees, the water will evaporate under vacuum. So at the low temperatures, you sublimate the ice in the product, water in the product, to you take out that as a steam or as a gas, so that your product will be dried. So this is a very good technology. It preserves the anthocyanins because you are doing it at a lower temperature. You are doing under vacuum. The color, flavor, and antioxidant activity will be preserved. And reconstitutability, when you take this powder and put it in water, it will actually dissolve very fast. Reconstitution will be very, very good, very easy, and preserves the all the nutrients, color, flavor of the product. So this is what you crystallize the water in the in the product, in the blueberry. Then you put it under vacuum. So in the primary drying, you take out the water like a vapor, from ice to vapor. Under vacuum, maybe about 0.1 millibars, you can do that. And it's followed by a secondary drying, where you can actually remove some of the bound moisture, so that you can get the moisture of the product around 4-5% moisture. So this will retain better color, flavor, and also antioxidant activity will be better, and product characteristics will be better, mouthfeel will be better. Vacuum drying is another technology where you don't do the freezing process. You dry it as the product under vacuum. You remember a little while ago I mentioned that under vacuum you can actually boil water at a low temperature. because the boiling point water will be reduced under vacuum. So that is what you use that technology. So this will be beneficial to preserve heat sensitive components, color and flavor. It is better than other drying processes like spray drying or a drum drying, but it is not as good as a freeze drying. But comparatively, it is a good process. So one can adopt this. Same thing, you pass it, you take the product. Here, you don't freeze that. You directly clean, grade, and wash them, and then pass it through a vacuum, under vacuum, at a lower temperature, and you take out the moisture content. So this will help us in preserving some of the components in the blueberries. Fluidized bed drying is another drying where you actually pass hot air in a perforated tray, so that the product will be like a fluid. It will be moving inside the chamber. So this will actually help us in better heat transfer, or mass transfer will be there. So drying will be more rapid and uniform compared to other processes. So this is how, on a perforated tray, you put your product, you pass hot air below that. So this product will be moving on the tray or on the plate, and it will be exposed to this temperature, and then it will be dried. So relatively it is good, but not as good as freeze drying, definitely not good as vacuum drying. There are other technologies, as I was referring a little while ago, the high pressure processing, where you use high pressure, hydrostatic pressure, which is a non-thermal process, which is done usually at 100 to 600 megapascals. And under that pressure, it inactivates the pathogenic and spoilage microorganism while maintaining the food's fresh characteristics, nutrition values, sensory qualities, antioxidant activity will be preserved. So this is where you actually, under this pressure, some of the pathogenic bacteria, the cell wall will be ruptured, so that they will not withstand. They will be inactivated during this process, and you will preserve the color, and you will have a better shelf life. So there is no heat required in this. It is done at an ambient temperature, but under pressure. So there is another pulsed electric field technology. Commercially, not much this is available. Again, this is another non-thermal process where you actually give electric, some high voltage electric pulses will be given to the liquid or semi-solid, semi-liquid products. So then it will disrupt the microbial cells. These electric pulses will disrupt the cell walls of the microorganisms, so that it will inactivate them, and you will have a better product with better anthocyanins, because you are not actually giving any heat treatment to this particular product. This is how you pass the product through electric pulses, and that will inactivate the microorganisms, so that you will have a better product with this particular process. And then again, using sound, ultrasound assisted processing is another thing which is there. So here again, because of the ultrasound, these sound waves actually will rupture the microbial cell wall, so that you can actually preserve the product and reduce the microbial load and increase the shelf life of the product. This is a relatively new technology by vacuum cooker or robo cubo, which is an Italian technology. What in this they do is, it's a multifunctional. So it does a lot of things. It does like your cutting will be done, size reduction will be done, cooking will be done. So there will be a lot of processes happens, but this is not for all the processes. Maybe for a purees, jams, sauces, filling, smoothies, you can do this. This is a vacuum controlled heating, and here you will do mixing, you will do grinding, and with this you can actually minimize, because this is done under vacuum. Thermal damage will be less, your microbial load will be less, but you will have a better color, flavor, and preserving the bioactive components. Lastly, I would like to just compare all these different processes, like pasteurization. it inactivates microorganisms and enzymes, as we have seen that is relatively a low temperature compared to other ultra high temperature processes, around 63 to all 72 degrees centigrade. But still it has some heat, so there will be moderate loss of nutrients or anthocyanins due to heat exposure. Freezing is definitely preserves the fresh quality of the product and gives shelf life. It all good, but only thing is it is more expensive because you have to maintain the cold chain till it reaches to the consumers. So this is good, especially for fresh product. You can do that, and spray drying is relatively good. You can get a stable blueberry powder, which has a good reconstitutability. But again, it undergoes very high temperature, so there will be losses of anthocyanins depending on the temperature. Freeze drying is an excellent product. Of course, it is relatively expensive. Okay, if wherever possible, if you get a freeze dried product, definitely it is good, but it is a little expensive, but it will have all the nutrients, all the characteristics like a fresh produce. And concentration or evaporation, like to produce fruit juice concentrates, may cause anthocyanins because you will be, and it is undergoing heat treatment. High pressure processing, which is a non-thermal biomicrobial inactivation technology. It preserves anthocyanins, reduces the microbial load, it preserves the color and nutrients. Pulsed electric field is also similar to that. It is a non-thermal process. It inactivates the microbes and it will retain all the nutrients, including anthocyanins, and minimal thermal damage. Ultrasound processing is another thing, improves extraction and mass transfer. If you do this ultrasound before actually making a juice, so that will actually have a better extraction, because not only the microbial cell walls, even the skin, the plant cells also will be ruptured, so that you can have a better yield of juice. Can enhance anthocyanin extraction with limited degradation. So this is how compared to cost. As we have seen, pasteurization is one of the low cost technologies. Freezing is medium, spray drying is medium, freeze drying is definitely very high cost. Similarly, high pressure processing or pulsed electric field are also high, but unfortunately you don't have a lot of commercial facilities available for this. Ultrasound is also medium technologies. As you look at the anthocyanin retention, all the high cost processes like freeze drying, high pressure processing, pulsed electric field have retained very, very well. And we need to look at what is the cost and what is the shelf life, and how much impact or how much retention of the anthocyanins are there. So based on that, we can choose the process. So recommendation for juice, puree, and powder, we can look at high temperature short time process with, or high pressure processing, followed by vacuum cooking and spray drying. So these are some of the recommendations. You can look at it. So this is what I would like to thank. It's not my presentation, so that is why these are the people from University of Putra, Malaysia, have put up this presentation. So I thank them, and thank you very much for your patience. Over to you, Raj. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Suresh. A very detailed presentation. If you have, we have some time. If you have any questions, we can have some questions. Anybody has any questions? Even
So,
we,
Raj,
yes,
currently I don't have any more question, but my only point is ki in term just to maintain the color of anthocyanin, means this blueberry beverage color. So we have to add this anthocyanin. It means because this naturally color will definitely going to be degraded over a time of period. So if we want to have a extended shelf life, maybe 6 months, 9 months, So it means we have to externally edit this. But some of the regulation, which I suppose they don't allow any this addition of color.
Yeah, see, you don't need to add color. So that is where, like, especially if you inactivate the polyphenol oxidases or peroxidases, so that will reduce the degradation and storage or the handling conditions. If you maintain, it can be done. So that is the reason we put up this presentation. You don't need to add any external any colorants. Okay, with the natural colorants itself can be preserved if you understand the process and handle them carefully. Whatever
Suresh,
loss will be there, it will be there.
yes. So my question is this only, because if I am going to prepare a beverage with this, so market condition as far as the India is concerned, there are means temperature we cannot control in the market. So most of the time, if the color at the time of means manufacturing of the beverage and at the end of shelf life will not remain same, then we are going to face this means consumer complaint.
See, if you have oxygen barrier, like if you have your Tetra Pak product, so
Yes,
it's
yes.
more stable because it doesn't allow any additional oxygen coming into that. So that will be preserved. Whatever at the time of processing, it will be preserved for 6 to 9 months time. Okay,
Okay.
it's the same thing. Sachin, it is not just with the blueberries. It is same thing with other fruits also. Like if you look at pomegranate, you have a pomegranate
Yeah,
product
yes. So,
also.
Suresh
Yeah.
ji, actually, I am sharing my experience of pomegranate only.
So something encapsulation is something which we can do. Think about it. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
But that will be there. So that is where we determine the shelf life using accelerated storage studies and determine the all the parameters you are looking for, and then determine the life.
Okay.
Okay.
It means we have to make a study, huh?
Yeah, we can also see Blueberry Council can help us because it is not something new we are doing, isn't it? It has been there all over the world. It is there, so we can. The Blueberry Council can help us with these technologies which are available. So we are not. It's not something we are doing for the first time in the world. So there are technologies available, so we can take their guidance and support and adopt that in our process so that we can give a better quality product to the consumers.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Definitely.
have to-
Thanks.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Patrick, would you like to add anything on this?
Maybe is it still there? It is too late for them.
But he's still there.
Okay, okay.
Honestly, that was incredibly informative and packed with so much detail. I was very happy to be able to sit through that because that was impressive.
Thank you.
Any other questions we can take or we close?
There is no question from my side, but the information shared by Suresh is really impressive.
We can share this
Thank you.
presentation with you, with all of you. So you
Yeah.
can take it as a reference also. Hmm?
Yeah. Thanks, Ras. Thank you, Suresh, for
Thank
sharing
you.
such
Thank you.
informations.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Suresh,
sir.
Kyle, Patrick,
Thanks, Raj.
and all the participants. Thank you very much for attending the session throughout the.
Yeah. Thank you, Raj. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.